Hello, welcome. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. So we see that we have a few attendees. Welcome to the virtual workshop with the Office of Admissions at Agnes Scott College. We are going to give it I would say about another 30 seconds before we officially kick off this evening's webinar. So get settled in this space, familiarize yourself with this Zoom webinar platform, and we will get started shortly.
Okay, I think we can go ahead and get started. Hi, everybody. Again, welcome everyone. My name is Jasmin Marquez. I am one of the admission counselors here at Agnes Scott College. And today we will be talking about navigating the admission process and college application. So a little bit about what I do. So again, I'm an admission counselor. I work with students domestically. So Tennessee, Florida, Washington, Utah, Oregon, I think I'm missing a few. And then I also work with some of our international students as well. But yeah, great to have you all here. Excited to talk to you about the admission process. But I'm going to hand it over to Nayata.
Thank you, Jasmine, and good evening, everyone. We do recognize that many of you are in a time zone where it is evening, but if you happen to be joining us from another time zone, where you are in your morning or afternoon, we just bring you greetings from the Office of Admissions. So, similar to Jasmine, I also work in the Office of Admissions at Agnes Scott College. My name is Nayati Shuler. I have been a Scottie since August 10th, so just joined the Scottie community last month. And I serve in the role of Associate Director of Admission here at Agnes Scott College. In addition, I work with our domestic applicants as well. And so I work with students from 4 counties in Georgia, including Rockdale, Henry, Fayette, and Clayton counties, as well as some of our out of state students as well, including students from Arkansas, South Carolina, Illinois, Indiana, Mississippi, just to name a few. So we do bring you greetings from the entire Office of Admissions, and Jasmine and I look forward to interacting with you, engaging with you, and sharing information about navigating the admission process and common application. As many of you know, when you registered for this evening's session, during this workshop, we are going to unpack the admission process and how to put your best foot forward in this process. We are also going to discuss the components of the Common App, what makes a strong application, and what we are ultimately looking for in future Scotties as well. So to kick things off, we will begin with an overview of the deadlines and ultimately ways to determine which deadline is the best for you. As we are navigating this workshop and interacting with you, we do encourage you to utilize the Q&A function to ask any questions that you may have, and we will open up the floor for a more formal Q&A towards the end of this evening session. In addition, we encourage you to interact with one another in the chat as well. So to begin, in terms of deadlines, when you are looking at colleges and navigating the admissions process, you may be asking yourself, number one, what deadlines do schools offer and which one would work the best for you? At Agnes Scott College, we have a number of application plans for our domestic applicants as well as our international applicants and transfer students, just to name a few. And so in front of you, you see our 4 application plans. We do offer an early decision application plan. That deadline is November 1st. That is a binding deadline. So when you hear early decision, that deadline often means that it is contractual, meaning that you are telling that college or university that you are ultimately going to enroll if you are admitted through that application plan. That is something that is consistent among many colleges and universities when it comes to their early decision. Next, we have Early Action 1 and Early Action 2. So Early Action 1 provides students with an opportunity to hear early on in their senior year what their admissions decision is from the admission committee. Early Action 2 has a deadline of January 16th. And this application plan, following Early Action 1, this application plan actually adheres to a rolling decision notification process as well. And then last but not least, regular decision, and that deadline is March 15th. So for regular decision, students who are certain that they want their senior year grade, so the first semester of their senior year, to be included as part of the admissions review process, this may be a deadline that you want to consider. That regular decision deadline would allow you to showcase to the admission committee what your academic performance looked like at the beginning of senior year and ultimately rounding out your application file. As you are considering our application plans and any application plans, we do encourage you to really take time to determine which application plan allows you to present your best self when submitting that application. So again, some questions to consider as you are choosing a deadline. Is a binding or non-binding deadline right for me? Are there scholarship or financial aid priority deadlines? And last but certainly not least, are your first semester senior grades important in showing your academic growth? Before we transition over, I do want to note that our scholarship priority deadline here at Agnes Scott College is Early Action 2, which is January 16th. So keep that in mind as you are navigating the process and considering application deadlines. So next, let's take a look at what is needed in a completed application file and ultimately the list of credentials needed in order to complete out your file in preparation for review as well. So first, we are a member of the Common Application. And so the Common Application is the only way that you can apply to Agnes Scott for admission consideration. In addition, along with your Common Application, there is an Agnes Scott supplement. And so we will dive a little into this a little more towards the middle of today's workshop. But along with that Common App, you also have your Agnes Scott supplement, specific questions selected by Agnes Scott College and the Office of Admissions to add to the Common Application file. Along with your Common App and Agnes Scott supplement, we have your letters of recommendation. We also require your official high school transcript. And then we are test optional. So we have been test optional for a little over a decade now. And what that means is that we do not require test scores as part of the admissions consideration or merit scholarship consideration process. So we encourage you to consider submitting test scores if you feel as if they would add to your application file and enhance your academic performance or ultimately enhance the way we would assess your academic readiness. And last but certainly not least, we do offer an optional interview, and the interview is an opportunity for you to not only connect with your admission counselor at Agnes Scott, but it's also an opportunity for you to enhance what we already will learn about you in your application file as well. So it's a great way for you to put a personal touch on your admissions process if that is of interest to you as well. We do want to note at the bottom, additional application pieces may be required for international DACA, UD, homeschool, and transfer applicants. And so we do encourage you to visit our website at agnescott.edu/admission to learn more. But at this time, I'm going to transition over to Jasmin, and she will discuss the Common App in more detail, as well as our activities and honors list.
Yes, so as Nayati said, we are part of the Common App. So I'm going to talk about the four major sections of the Common Application. So this is what you're going to see once you open up the Common App. So if you haven't heard of the Common App yet, this is essentially an application that you're able to do and send to multiple schools. So just an overview of the four sections, it's going to be personal information, academic activities and honors, Common App essay, and supplements. So that first piece, personal information, this is going to be like the general information about who you are. Usually it asks like about parents, about like what high school you go to, things of that sort. And so this information is going to be sent to all of the colleges that you select. And then it'll go into academics and activities or honors. So same as the first one, this is another section that will also be sent to all of the schools that you apply to. So this includes like what are your academic interests? What are something that you are you looking for academically in a college? And also activities and honors. So if you're involved in extracurricular activities that you want colleges to know about, this will be the section where you will include that. Also honors. So if you have like any leadership roles, if you have like a position in an organization or a club, this will also be a great opportunity to talk about that and kind of brag about yourself a little bit. And then the third part is the Common App essay. So another thing that's also going to be sent out to all the schools that you apply to. So on the Common App, you have, I believe, 7 questions that you get to choose from. And so that's on you. You know, you get to choose which question you want to answer. So when it comes to this, definitely choose one that you feel really comfortable writing about, speaking on, elaborating as much as you need to, because this will be shared with all the schools that you apply to. So make sure you pick wisely. And then that last one is going to be the supplements. So these are questions that are specifically to the college. So from this list, this is the only thing that will be sent to the specific college that you apply to. So Agnes Scott has specific questions, and I will talk a little bit more about that in the next 2 sections. And then we can move on to the next slide. Okay, so activities and honors. So like I mentioned, this is something that you definitely want to include, and this is something that will be sent to all of the schools that you apply to. So have you held a part-time job? Have you been involved in a club or an organization? Have you volunteered somewhere? Definitely include these types of things in your application. You know, schools want to see what type of like leadership roles you may have. They're just things that you find important. So if you volunteer at an organization that is of a certain interest to you, that's like, you know, you're passionate about, definitely include and talk about that. Do you have responsibilities at home? Have you developed any new skills or hobbies? So we understand that everyone's skills, everyone's responsibilities look really differently. If you take care of your younger siblings, if you take care of a family member, you know, this is definitely something that schools want to know more about. So definitely include that as well. Same with developing new skills or hobbies. Even if it's something that you may not think is important for schools to know, if it's something that truly interests you, add that just so that we can, you know, have a better understanding of who you are as a person overall. Are there any honors or awards that highlight your academic or community work? Like I mentioned previously, if you hold a specific position in an organization or a club, or you founded, I know students like fine clubs, if you founded a club, if you have honors, you know, definitely include that as well so you can see that part of yourself. What do you want colleges or universities to know about how you spend your time outside of the classroom? So even though, you know, obviously academics are important, we want to know, all schools want to know what you do outside of the classroom, any extracurricular activities. This kind of ties in overall, you know, it could be volunteer work, it could be a part-time job, it could be anything that you do outside of the school.
Awesome. Thank you, Jasmine. So next we are going to discuss the academic section and ultimately ways in which you can shed light on your academics and academic performance during the application process. So I do want to start by noting that you are not required to fill out all of these sections. However, if you choose to, then here is just some guidance and insight that you can hold on to as you are navigating each of these sections as well. So first, we are going to start with senior year classes. Ultimately, this portion of the Common Application allows the admission committee to see what coursework you're taking during your senior year. As we noted when we discussed and shed a light on our application deadlines, there are some deadlines that provide students with opportunities to submit their admission application before their senior year grades are available. And so if that is something that you are considering, maybe applying for early decision, early action one, for example, then this section allows you you to ultimately list the classes that you know you are taking throughout your senior year as well. So again, optional, but that's something to consider if you want that information available to the admission committee. The next section is change in progress. So this section ultimately provides you with an opportunity to share any context that the admissions committee needs to know about any change in your progress over time. For example, did you transfer school? So did you go to more than one high school? Did you take a semester off? Was there a change in your school specifically because you had to move for a family reason or a personal reason? This section really allows you to shed light on any changes in your educational journey, but also any changes that may be reflected on your transcript that you want to add additional context to as well. The next section is probably one of my favorites, and it is the additional information section. So this section is an opportunity for you to share any information about your high school experience that you believe would be important to the admission committee as we are reviewing your application and considering you for admission into Agnes Scott College as well. I do want to note that in terms of the additional information section, that is where you can put quite a bit of information. And so if you're asking yourself where do I start? What type of information should I really include in that? Again, it's optional. But the additional information section allows you to, for example, provide further explanation on interesting high school circumstances, such as graduating early. It allows you to maybe explain an unusual class. It allows you to explain a number of absences you may have had in high school. For example, maybe you were absent because of an injury. Maybe you're an athlete and you had an injury, or maybe you were absent just because of medical or health related concerns. And it also allows you to talk about something like a learning difference or anything else that you feel would be important for the admission committee to know in order to fully understand your academic performance, academic readiness, and the information we're seeing about your academics as well. And then last but certainly not least, we have the COVID-19 section or the COVID-19 question as well. And so this question really allows you to shed light on whether your family or academics or COVID-19, whether that affected your family or academics in ways that are important for the committee to know when reviewing your application. So again, the admission process and application process is all about creating a holistic and well-rounded application file. And as part of that, we encourage you to utilize these various sections to give us a sense of what we're seeing in terms of your academic readiness, academic performance, and shed light on any factors that have impacted your academics. So next, I'm going to hand it back over to Jasmin, and we're going to dive into writing sections and letters of recommendation.
Yes, so as I said in my previous section, we have some writing sections that are part of the Common App. And then, so Agnes Scott specific Common Application questions include the Common App essay, which this is an essay that will be shared with all of the colleges and universities that you end up applying to. So like I said previously, you get a list of questions and that's on you to decide which one you want to talk about. So I definitely recommend, picking a topic that you just feel really comfortable and confident talking about extensively. So that way it can be just a more comfortable scenario where you're writing about it, but also just so you can feel confident in what you are writing about. And then the second writing section is the Agnes Scott supplement. So this is a short answer question, which includes specific questions about Agnes Scott. And for these questions, they're not going to be shared with all of the universities or colleges. So we have specific Agnes Scott questions that you'll see if you decide to put Agnes Scott on your list. So these would include questions such as leadership development and global learning. So at Agnes, those are two topics that are very, very important to our students and to our campus. So you'll be asked about how that's important to you personally, and that way we can get a sense of you and our campus. But yeah, these again are questions specifically to Agnes Scott College. So if you decide to apply to other colleges and universities, they'll have different questions for those schools as well. So letters of recommendation. So you are required 2 letters of recommendations. One is from your high school counselor, and then another one can be from a high school teacher. So how do you choose your recommenders? So definitely if you have like multiple high school counselors, definitely choose a counselor that knows you as a student, knows who you are, knows about some sort of growth that you made. Maybe it's somebody that you've known from ninth grade all the way to 12th grade. You can really talk about like how you've grown as a student. Same with like a high school teacher. If it's a teacher that you've taken their classes before, they see the type of student that you are. Maybe they even know about like the extracurricular activities that you've been a part of. That would be great because that gives them a lot to talk about in their letters of recommendations. And then best practices when asking for a letter of recommendation. Always ask early. During this time, a lot of high school teachers, a lot of high school counselors are being asked the same thing of writing letters of recommendation. So it's always really nice to ask your teacher, your counselor ahead of time. Obviously don't have them like a week before it's due or a few days before it's due. Give them that time. Also, when you ask them with time, it'll be just a much better letter of recommendation and it'll help you out in the end. So definitely do that and always say thank you. Teachers have a lot going on. Counselors have a lot going on during the season specifically. So yeah, always say thank you to all of the people who are writing letters of recommendation for you. And again, teachers and counselors can be invited to submit this letter through the Common App. So once I believe there's a section on the Common App that lets you submit the information of the person that you want to ask to write your letter of recommendation. So once you submit their information, they'll get an email and then they'll be able to submit it. But for Agnes College specifically, you also have the option of submitting it through your Agnes portal once you submit your application. So you have options, but this way, they can get that information and just you won't have to worry about submitting it to this level.
Well, now we are transitioning to talk about what happens when you are preparing to submit your application. So, in front of you is an overview of final things to check when you are ready to submit your common application and celebrate yourself. So, first is you want to ensure that you have added all of your schools to your list. In addition, there are several green check marks that you want to see. So basically, you want to make sure before you hit submit that there are green check marks next to all of the sections within the common application as well. Next, check that the word counts for your essay and supplements meet the requirements. You will not be able to submit your application if you are over or under the word counts for both your Common App essay as well as the supplement. So be very intentional about that, but also to Jasmine's point about giving your recommenders time to submit their letters of recommendation, give yourself time to craft your essays and your supplements so that it is quality work, but also that it meets the word count that is outlined in the application. And then last but not least, you want to ensure that you have paid any application fee associated to any of the applications you are submitting through Common App, so any of the schools you are applying to. We do want to note that Agnes Scott does not have an application fee, so we have a free application for U.S. citizens, DACA, and undocumented students, and we want to ensure that you make sure that you are looking at any college that you're considering, that you consider what that application fee may look like as well. So again, check off that checklist and make sure that you have everything needed to complete that application before submitting it as well. So once you have checked everything, once you have filled out all of the sections, once you have proofread and double checked your word counts, what happens next? You submit your common application. But then after you submit your common application, what happens after that? So next, I'm going to transition over to Jasmine to discuss what happens after you submit your Common App.
Yeah, so once you submit your Common App, you should receive a confirmation email from Common App that your application has been submitted. So be on the lookout for that just so you can know that everything has been confirmed and sent. And then about 24 hours later, you'll receive an email specifically from us if you decide to apply to Agnes Scott, inviting you to set up an admission portal. So this is a portal that I mentioned earlier. And through this portal, you'll be able to know information about your admission counselor, set up informational or optional interviews with your admission counselor, and then you also have the chance to just upload additional documents as well. So you have all of that information within 24 hours of submitting your application. And just remember that it's important to set up and bookmark your Agnes Scott admission portal as well as other portals from your colleges and universities that you apply to. So it'll be like a similar process, I would say, with other schools and universities. You will receive some sort of like access link to their portal once you apply to their schools as well, giving you that same information of like admission counselor email, things of that sort. So have that bookmark. Just, if any question comes up, it'll be easier to access it. And most of them, you have to set up like an email and a password. So also have all of that information, write it down in your notes app, write it down on a notebook, just so you can have that easily accessible as well.
Perfect. So speaking of admission portal, this is where we shed light on the Agnes Scott admission portal and ultimately how that allows you to track the completion status of your application file. So overall, the admission portal provides you real-time updates about the completion status of your application file at Agnes Scott specifically. What that means is that if you are wondering about whether your teacher evaluation has been submitted, whether the Office of Admissions has received your transcript, for example, that information is updated in real time in your admission portal. So, with that being said, we want to encourage you to check it often and to ensure that you are keeping track with the submission of your credentials leading up to the deadline as well. Additionally, if you're watching your Common App and you're just waiting on a teacher rec or something, it's better to go ahead and submit your Common App so that you can keep track of pieces in your portal and work with your admission counselor on completing your application. So that portal is developed for you after the Office of Admissions receives your Common Application as well. Additionally, as noted, we are test optional. And so while test scores are not required, SAT or ACT scores are not required as part of the admission file. If you choose to submit test scores, then you can actually self-report those scores as well. Again, we have several resources in hand and available for you to learn more about different parts of the admission and application process. But we would encourage you to also take a look at our YouTube channel to learn more, in addition to our website, to learn more about self-reporting your scores and ultimately about various components of the admission process as well. So as a reminder, your admission portal is what provides you with real-time updates about the completion status of your file. So you can track your application checklist, you can upload missing pieces, including your test scores if you choose to submit them. You can sign up for that optional admission interview that Jasmin was discussing, and also you can get in contact with your admission counselor for questions about your application, financial aid, scholarships, or Agnes Scott in general as well. So once everything is complete, how is your application considered for admission? So next, Jasmin and I will discuss the admission process at Agnes Scott College and the approach that we take to reviewing applications. Just in general, at Agnes Scott College, we take a holistic approach to the admission process. And you may have heard that term before, and for some, it may be a new term. What it means is that when a college or university approaches admissions review processes holistically, that means that the admission committee is ultimately using all pieces of the application, not just a single metric, to really understand an applicant as a whole and get a sense of how they will fit into a campus community. So for Agnes specifically, we are looking for a number of factors to see you living and learning on our campus, right? So we want to see academic preparedness. We want to see students who have gone beyond the classroom to learn and grow. Students who are really ready for this vibrant and active campus community that we have to offer. And so in order to give you a better visual of what holistic admission looks like at Agnes, we want to first share with you information about academic preparedness and how we assess that. And then we will discuss ultimately how we assess overall fit for the college. So I'll hand it over to Jasmin to discuss column one, so academic preparedness, and then we'll discuss overall fit.
Yeah, so talking about like being academically prepared, so this means that we're going to be looking at your high school transcript, letters of recommendation, Common App essay, and then your optional SAT and ACT scores. So this is really going to give us idea of how you are as a student. So like if you are prepared to be in a college class as a first year. So looking at your transcript, obviously you want to be looking at classes, taking, if you're taking classes like AP classes, IB classes. And then also there's some sort of growth happening, like if we see that first semester of senior year, junior year, maybe you were like struggling a little bit, and then we see that suddenly your second semester, we see that, there's a huge difference. We definitely take into consideration that growth that you did as a student. I know sometimes students are like, well, my first year of high school, I was really struggling with that transition to high school. But then like eventually it got better. So if we see that progress, we take it into consideration, and we know that that's a good thing. It's a good sign to see that you have made progress and that you're growing as a student. Same with letters of recommendation. So because these are going to be coming from teachers who see who you are like as a student specifically, and who'll probably talk about like your grades and things of that sort. This is another thing that will help us gain an idea of like how you would fit into the IPES classroom. And then for the Common App essay, so it is on both columns. So while we do look at like what you're writing and what question you chose, we also look at how you're writing. So, just like grammatical errors, just like the way that you are transitioning within your essay. So this is something to also keep in mind. As important as the topic is, are you going to choose, like choosing something that you want, choosing something that you can talk a lot about, but also making sure that you're writing grammatically correct, that you are able to, again, just transition within paragraphs. And that also will give us an idea of like, okay, are you prepared to write a college essay? Are you prepared to like, take on those writing assignments in a college classroom as well? And then again, with the SAT and ACT scores, these are optional, but for the students that do decide to submit, this is also something that we do take into consideration, seeing how high your score is as well. And then for the admission interview, this is just another chance that's also optional, but it'll give us a sense of what kind of student you are academically, and if you will thrive or be successful in a first year classroom at Agnes School.
Thank you, Jasmine. And so, in terms of holistic admission, as mentioned, we take a look at academic preparedness, but then we also look at overall fit. So, when we're reviewing applications, we are asking ourselves, how will the student ultimately fit into the institution's campus community? And how will the student also matriculate during their time here at Agnes? So, in a nutshell, we are asking or assessing what our college's institutional values and mission are, and ultimately, what is the campus culture, and how do we see that student connecting with the culture and the values of our campus? And so, literally, you see that some of the same credentials are listed in both columns because, again, in holistic admissions processes, we are looking for a number of factors to make a decision. So we're not looking at one credential in silos to tell us everything we need to know about a student and their prospective admissibility. So again, as mentioned, the Common App essay really sheds light on your personal voice, understanding who you are, what your interests are, and even beyond your academics. So beyond your transcript, what type of student can we see you being on our campus community? That also falls in line with the Common App supplement. So Agnes Scott supplements really provide us with an opportunity to see some of these themes that we're looking for in prospective students come to light. So whether it's leadership development, community service, personal character, the supplements allow us to see some of those themes and really assess those themes and that information in our overall admission consideration. And then last but not least, again, the optional admission interview really is a good opportunity for students who are interested in it, a good opportunity for us to really see if you are a fit for our institution as well. And so it just adds to the information that you are already sharing in your application file. And it's another way for us to assess fit. I do want to know before we move forward that the admission process, the college search process, is about mutual fit. So the same way that you are looking for a college or university that is the best fit for you, we are looking for a group of students who are ready for the type of experience we have to offer. And so we learned that through that holistic admission process. So this brings us to the end of our PowerPoint presentation. We want to thank you so much for joining us. We hope that this has been helpful for you as you navigate the Common Application and the admission process as well. We do encourage you to keep the conversation going, continue engaging with us. So we encourage you to visit our website at agnescott.edu/visit to learn more about upcoming virtual workshops and visit opportunities. And speaking of upcoming opportunities, Jasmine, would you like to share with them some of the workshops and events we have coming up?
Yeah, so we have other virtual webinars. So the do's and don'ts of the college essay is a webinar that's coming up. I believe, I don't know if I have the date pulled up, but it's also this month. Do you know the date of
It's
the virtual?
next week,
Next
the
week.
11th.
So it's the 11th. And then we have Scottie Saturday coming up on October 21st. And so that is a great opportunity to visit campus if you haven't already. You are able to meet current students, tour the campus, and then meet other Scotties or prospective Scotties who are interested in attending Agnes Scott as well. And then we have Agnes Scott Scholarship and Financial Aid, which is coming up in 2 weeks. 3 weeks.
Like 3 or 4. It's
3 weeks.
November 1st.
Okay, yes, November 1st. And last but not least, we have our Great Scott. That's November 11th.
Yes,
Yeah,
in
okay.
person.
And then Great Scott is our awesome open house event that we have. And this is another great opportunity to come and visit campus, get a tour of campus, meet current students, current faculty and professors, and then just meet other prospective students. Also meet admission counselors, meet us. If you have any additional questions, if you want to chat about the admission process, it is also a great opportunity. And I also wanted to say that for the Great Scott open house, if we have any seniors who are interested in Agnes Scott who have applied, you are eligible to receive a $1,000 scholarship simply by attending the Great Scott open house. Where all this information about registering for these events should be on our website. So yeah, thank you all so much for joining us. And Ayana, did you want to do the final closeout?
Yes, so at this time, we are going to stop recording, but we do want to